The rust on this Blazer was so cancerous, we had to cut it in half.
When we first unloaded this 76 Blazer, we thought it might have been a little too far gone. We stripped it down and got the Blazer body sandblasting, revealing all of the rust areas that needed to be addressed. We had to build the chassis jig for the body. Then finally, in the last episode, we started to cut into this thing. We purchased 2 brand new bedsides for this Blazer because these old bedsides had tons of rot. Once the bedsides were removed, we found more structural rot that needed to be repaired. To repair it correctly, we had to remove the bed from the body and pretty much split this thing in half. Now, they actually don't make a lot of parts for these Blazers, so we've pretty much had to build everything in-house as far as sheet metal wise. We got that rear brace repaired and then went ahead and made a couple patches for the rear of the floor. Now we have to turn our attention to one of the scariest parts of this Blazer, which also happens to be the rustiest part, the front floor. We don't even know if we can actually fix this. This may be too far gone.
In today's video, we have to fix these rusty floors. We're gonna be removing all of this weight-saving material here and adding thick, heavy floors to make this Blazer slower. Before we jump to the floor, we have to finish these rear patches right here. We built all these patches in the last episode, so we gotta get all of this welded up first before we start on the floor. If you don't remember, this is what these patches used to look like, and now they are out of fresh, clean metal. So both of these corners just fit in here just like this, and this one fits under here just like that. We wanna get these corners welded in first just so it supports all of this before we cut out all of the structure in the floor. So that's what we're gonna start on right now. We're gonna do this side and we have to do this side. So once we get these patches welded in, we gotta turn our attention to the floor, get a game plan, and figure out how we're going to repair this floor. Okay, well the rear is finally finished up. We got all of the patches down here on both sides finished, so now we're ready to move forward to the floor on the Blazer. Well, I've been knocking out these patches back here. Mike has been knocking out all of the small patches that we're gonna have to do on this floor. Remember, we actually can't buy this floor. That's why we're having to build everything. So for example, this is a seat bracket and we've got tons of them over here. There's 6 of them in total. This was one of them. You can see how beat up it is. It's got a stripped bolt in it. We just decided, you know what, it's easier. Let's just bend this piece on the brake, and Mike did a really good job building this and welding these little seat plates in. So now we've got all brand new seat plates all the way around that are gonna sit like this, and that's what the seat is going going to bolt to. And then along with those, we've gotten some patches up here that are ready to go in, some smaller patches back here. And then Mike has got this template for the entire floor pretty much ready to go. So before we start to cut away our floor and do the patches up here, we really need to address this floor brace. This thing is completely rotted out. I can stick my hand all the way up through it. We do have brand new ones. I'm gonna start on this. I'm gonna get these floor braces cut out of the way on both sides. And Mike is gonna continue to build the floor pieces, get them completely cut out of metal and ready to go. So once I finish with these, we can just get this floor knocked out.
These floor braces were supposed to be pretty easy, but of course with anything aftermarket you always run into issues. That's why I always try and replace as little sheet metal as possible, just because you can run into major issues really fast with this aftermarket metal. I've seen a lot of guys that always cut out as much OEM metal as possible, but trust me, this will always lead to issues with fitment down the road. So we ran into a couple of issues with these aftermarket floor braces. Like I stated previously, there's not a lot of aftermarket support for the Blazer. There is, however, a lot of support for the C10 trucks. Now the trucks are similar to the Blazer, so all of the parts that we have ordered are for the truck. We're just gonna have to modify them to make them work for our Blazer build. It's a lot easier to modify these parts than try and fabricate them in the shop. So not only did we have to modify the flanges on these floor mounts, we also had to cut off the outer flanges because this whole entire floor mount assembly is actually a ½ inch too short. So if we don't modify this, that would suck in our inner rocker, sucking in our rocker panel, and then messing up the alignment with the door. But Mike and I came up with a plan to fix this. You're just gonna see it right after Mike finishes building the front floor templates. Making templates is probably one of the easiest and cheapest ways to make reliable guides before you actually cut out the sheet metal. Metal nowadays is pretty expensive, so you wanna try and be as frugal as possible. Especially us right now, because we are going to be using a lot of sheet metal on these floors. So there's a couple of different materials that you guys can use to make your templates out of. I've seen a lot of people use cardboard boxes, but the problem with that is it's so difficult to cut and it doesn't really give you an accurate template. So what we found out works really well is Home Depot actually sells this stuff. It's used for masking floors when you paint, and it's decently thick and it actually holds its shape really well. So you can cut this out with scissors, and you can also throw this on the brake, make bends, do whatever you need to do with it, and it will hold its shape. Really, really useful. And it was especially useful on these floors because Mike had to make a couple bends in them for the weather strip channel. And so he was able to accurately make that and then transfer that to our sheet of metal. This is definitely one of Mike's big strong suits, is his metal fabrication. He has an extensive amount of time doing custom sheet metal fabrication, and I'm grateful to have him with me doing this. He took his time and took tons of measurements because we didn't want to risk having to go and buy another sheet if the patches were incorrect. This definitely isn't your typical patch. I mean, it's not perfectly flat. It's got a bend right in the middle, so he made sure to take the degrees on that to get that perfect, and then also the bends for the weather strip channel absolutely perfect. And that's not all. He also had to make sure that all of the seat brackets were in the correct spot so that we can bolt the original seats back down in the original location. While Mike was doing all of this, you can see me in the background working on those floor braces. Not only did I get the passenger floor brace replaced, but I also built all the pieces that we need to modify these floor braces to make them fit, along with building a couple patches that go in between the floor and the floor brace.
Okay, we made a good amount of progress. So the floor brace got welded in, along with, we built this plate, which goes over the top of it. This is the old one, so you can see how rotted that was. We got a brand new one to replace it. And just check out that old floor brace. Pretty crazy. It was pretty much gone. This is definitely gonna be a lot stronger. So just to show you guys how we decided we're gonna fix our floor braces being a little bit short, we cut it off. We just cut both of these edges off because they're short. And these ones we built, and they actually slide in just like this and sit just like that. So you can see I drilled all these spot holes because we're actually gonna weld this piece on the inside. We think it looks a little bit better. And then we can adjust this exactly where we want it to be. which is gonna be pretty nice. And so we're gonna scoot it right up against that where it's supposed to be, but you can see how short, I mean, it's about a 1/2 inch short on that floor brace. So we're gonna weld a seam right there and then just spot weld that and then drill some holes and weld this to the inner rocker. But that's gonna fix our floor brace issue. And we built 4 of those, 2 for each side. You can see we've almost got this entire floor pretty much built. Mike built both sections, so he built this one right here, and then he also built this one right here. We did do a slight break in it, and then you can see we also carried it off, following it to the inner rocker, which is this piece right here. So now all we're gonna have to do is really trim this up right here, and then trim this up, and it will weld right to this. It's been a pretty cool process to completely build these floors. We've never done this before, but they've come out really, really nice. But there's still a lot of work to do to finish this up. Mike still has to do a lot of trimming on these floors to get them to fit really nicely into place. And then I have to jump over to the other side and get that other floor brace completely removed and do the exact same thing that I did to this one right here, just to prep it. So then we can start to get that floor mocked up, and then we're gonna be doing tons and tons of welding. But we're really getting close, and it's definitely come a long way. So let's get that floor brace out, let's get this thing trimmed up, and then hopefully we can start to tack this into place. So this is the old floor on the passenger side. Mike got it all cut out and ready to go. You can see the floor braces right there. And we've pretty much got this piece ready to go in. Oh yeah, you've mastered it now. Let me jump up here. Look at that. Oh, that looks so good. Oh my gosh, we're so close. So we've got all of these other patches made that are gonna get welded in, but you can see, oh, that came out so nice. Looks like a floor. Still got a little bit of work left to do, but we are getting pretty dang close. Apart from that, I got a little patch made down here, all my holes drilled for my spot welds, and then this brace cut and pretty much prepped and ready to go in. But it's seriously so cool to finally see the floor patch coming in. It's actually looking really good, and once we get this done, we're gonna be able to cruise on all the other metalwork. That looks pretty dang good. Almost looks like a factory floor.
What do you mean this is a factory floor?
That is a factory floor.
Okay, so now it's time to replace the driver floor brace. So I started by welding it to that main structural section in the middle. That's really the only part of the floor that we're keeping that's actually good. And so by welding it right there, it's gonna keep this mocked into place until I can build the other pieces and get it welded to the rocker. You can also see right here, I had to weld 2 seams on the top of the floor brace just because the truck floor braces are a little different than the Blazer ones. The Blazer ones have that little patch panel that goes on top of it, and I don't think the truck ones do. So I had to cut down those flanges on the top, that way it would allow room for that other patch to sit on top of it. While I was doing that, Mike was doing the final mock-up of the passenger floor, getting it screwed into place. This is where this is going to live. So he's gonna get this screwed down just so we can make sure we get it back in the exact same spot that it was originally. Then after that, he's gonna fit up all of these smaller floor mount patches that he built to make sure that they all fit nicely before we do any welding.
Okay, we're almost ready to get our floor patch welded in. Mike did a really good job getting it all trimmed up and ready to go, and we got all of our patches in. We're gonna tack everything up, but before we do any welding, I have to remove the kick panel because it's all rusted and we need to do that repair before we tack in our floor because we have to have the room to get it in and out. So I'm gonna pull the floor off, get that done. Over there, I got all of our measurements taken so we know exactly where our seats are supposed to go. And then I also got the floor brace and this other patch welded in place. So that's all done. Mike is gonna start cutting away the rocker and cutting away all the floor so we can do the exact same thing like we did on that side and get the patch set into place, trim it, get it all ready. We're gonna be pretty close to getting this thing back together. So I'm gonna tackle that side, Mike's gonna jump to this side, tackle this side, and we're just gonna keep cranking this thing out.
Mike and I were able to work very efficiently on this floor. At least both sides were rotted out so we could kind of jump back and forth, because if only one side was rusted out, we would literally be on top of each other trying to work. So we switched sides and I started doing the rest of the final fab on the passenger floor while Mike was getting the mock-up part of the floor done on the driver's side. I'm always a little nervous when we do these kind of things that are kind of unknown to us, this custom fabrication, just because I feel like it takes such a long time, and so it stresses me out a little bit. But then when I go back and watch these videos and see how much work and how much footage I actually have to edit out of it, it absolutely blows me away how much time and energy we put into these little things. One of the last major patches that needed to get done was the kick panel on both sides. So the rusted up kick panel was cut out. I got the new patch kind of lined up. It actually fit pretty decently. I only had to do a couple of modifications to really get it to fit up well. But once I got it trimmed and up into place, I was able to clamp it and start to tack it into place. This goes in first before the inner rocker goes in, so I had to get this done, and then the inner rocker will go in after this, and then the foot brace welds to that. But of course, since that piece fit up semi-easily, the next piece absolutely didn't fit at all.
Okay, we are almost there. So this was the kick panel that was completely rotted out right here. I got that cut out and got the new piece tacked into place. So that's finished. After that, I had to mock up the inner rocker because it fits up tightly against the kick panel right here. And if we did the floor first, we wouldn't be able to get this in. While I've been doing this, Mike has almost got that side pretty much cut out and ready to go. So once he finishes that, I'm gonna have to jump over and do all of this exact same thing to that side. We didn't want to do the inner rocker until the next video, but we had to do it just because of everything going on right here. But we ran into a big issue with these aftermarket inner rockers. First of all, they are about ½ inch too short. The bottom of the rocker welds right here to the inner rocker, and this part sticks just barely right here, so we wouldn't be able to get good penetration. This is just a crappy thing about aftermarket parts. They're usually always a little too short and they just don't fit. And that's exactly the issue we're running into right here. And then you can also see I have everything clamped up and really tight up here, and the inner rocker goes at an angle. So it's supposed to be parallel with the body, but it's not. It's coming at an angle this way. So what we decided to do was, since this is already too short and sits at an angle, we're gonna cut it off right here. We're gonna just build this inner rocker piece after the floor is in, because in order to do this piece, we have to have the rockers mocked up, we have to have the doors thrown on, and in order to get the doors on and lined up correctly, we have to have the bed back on and the bed sides mocked up. It's not really feasible for us to do this right now, but we're at least gonna try and get the rest of the floor tacked into place to finish up this video. So like I said, I'm just gonna slit this off right here so we can finish final welding all of this, and then we'll be able to get the floor set in and tacked into place. So then we can move on to getting the bed and quarters and doors put on to do the rest of the floor metal work. So I'm gonna finish final welding all of this while Mike finishes the floor on that side, and then we're gonna swap. He's gonna get the floor tacked into place. I'll do all the metal work over there, and then get the floor in. But we're in the final stretch. We've got a couple more hours to get this tacked up into a stage that we can leave it and move on to the rear and then come back and finish it later. So let's go.
At the beginning of this episode, we showed you this completely rusted out floor. And honestly, Mike and I were pretty intimidated by it. We had no idea how we were going to fix it. After looking online for hours and hours and finding nothing available for this floor, this made us realize that we were going to have to completely build these floors from scratch. This is by far definitely the most intimidating part of this Blazer restoration. But we didn't let the intimidation stop us. We just got a plan together and started cutting away and building these patches. And in the end, they came out absolutely amazing. It feels so good to finally have the majority of the floor replaced in this Blazer. A lot of times in life, we face challenges that we almost think are impossible to do. At first, we feel overwhelmed and almost underqualified. But with just a little bit of planning and a lot of hard work and determination, you can overcome any struggle or challenge that you may face in your life. With the start of this new year, I'm extremely grateful for all the love and support that I've got through this channel this past year of 2025. Not only has my channel hit record views, but we've also doubled the subscriber count. For this, we are eternally grateful. If you're not subscribed, be sure to subscribe because we've got some really cool projects and builds planned for 2026. Thank you.
Well, the floor is almost done. This has taken a lot more time than both of us thought, but overall we are actually really happy with how this is coming out. We've still got a couple patches to do up in here, but this is gonna be a little bit more difficult along with the floor patch up front. But you can see we got everything replaced in here, so all of this is super structural now. This side right here is really done. I mean, we got the floor patch up there finished up, all of this welded in and everything ground. We do have a tiny bit more rust to do right here, and then we also have to fix this and build this piece down, but we're gonna do that later. But overall, we are super happy with how this is looking. Once all this is coated, you're never gonna be able to tell we did these patches. This is going to look OEM. But if you guys enjoyed this episode, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel to follow along with this build. We are moving pretty quickly on this, and sooner than you think, we're gonna have the metalwork completely finished on this. Also, drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think about these floor pans. Do you think we did a good job? Do you think this is gonna look OEM? Or are you gonna be able to tell that we did some floor patches on this thing? Mike and I had a lot of fun in this episode. It was pretty dang difficult to do, but we are seriously so happy with how it came out. So on that note, thanks so much for watching, guys, and we will see you on the next one. Peace out.